Hello. I'm back. I still don't know how to start these things. Blah. What? Oh. Alright. How do I start? I don't know. Should I have one of those, like, openings? No, people do that on YouTube, and they have, like, something that they say every single time, and I don't have that, so I don't know what to say. You know what? I should create, like, one of those title sequences.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been censored to protect the guilty.
No, I thought it was clever. Feeling awkward. I'm always awkward in the beginning. When I start recording, it's just, a little dark out. So I put, my light. Lately, I've been feeling like this is kind of boring. But that could just be me. I did say I wanted to do other things with this channel, but I haven't really figured out what that is just yet. Right now, I guess I'm just continuing this series, and I'm just gonna keep doing this, I guess. Telling my story is important, I think. At least to me. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch. But should I just start reading? Okay, so I guess it's like story time now. We've reached the point in this first journal. We're almost towards the end. There we go. All right, so at this point in my journal, I find out that we're going back home to New York. We're leaving Connecticut. But let me just read this entry. Should I bother reading it? I mean, it's quick. It's a very short entry, and I'll elaborate after. Freedom. It is a beautiful thing. I feel light as air right now. And though obviously at the time I didn't notice, but for the past year I have been carrying a weight on my head. And I think now that I know I'm going back home, it has lifted, because I feel myself walking taller and not dragging my body behind me everywhere I go. My self-confidence has skyrocketed. I feel as if I can accomplish anything. I feel supported. I feel loved. And most of all, I love myself when I am free. There's nothing I can't do now. And I'm going to take advantage as much as I can of this second chance I have been given. I am overwhelmed with joy. It is so liberating and beautiful and peaceful, yet very exciting all at the same time. Now is when my life will really begin. The funny thing is, after this entry, that's obviously a very short entry, it's only a few lines, but the next entry is just us being in New York, right? So this is my last entry that I wrote when we were in Connecticut. And I'm realizing now, I don't say anything about what happened, why we left. And I think that's a very important part of my story, because it was the catalyst to a lot of things. So, what happened? So I mentioned previously in, the previous episodes that, we went to church, and my ex-husband and I at the time were working with, I guess, the youth of the of the church. He was obviously working with the male youth. I was working with the female youth. We're kind of counselors. But there were times when, we would do joint events, like co-ed events together. So there was this one girl who didn't really come very often, but apparently, unbeknownst to me, my husband befriended her. Apparently, she would come to, I think, the basketball games that they would have with the youth, that I didn't go to, obviously. I was with my kids at home. So, yeah, apparently, they became friends, and I I don't know what happened. So, like, the pastor, the head guy at the church, had called my ex-husband in for a meeting. We thought that he was going to get like a different calling, or he was going to ask him to do to work in a different area of the church. We weren't sure, right? Um, but he came home and he was very distraught, you know, and like really sad, and I recognized it immediately, obviously. And I'm like, what happened? What'd he say? And he kind of he seemed sad, but he also seemed really upset. Like he had been wronged. He told me that there was a girl that he was trying to help. She wasn't, she didn't come to church often, so he was trying to get her to come. And of course, I'm like, well, why are you asking this girl to come? And mind you, she's 16, 17 years old at the time. Remember, I'm 20 at this point, so he's about 22. I guess he befriended her somehow, and he got brought in to speak to the pastor. This girl and her mother were there in the meeting, and apparently had put in a complaint saying that, it was inappropriate, that my ex was trying to form a relationship and she didn't approve of it. And I mean, and with reason, obviously. She wanted to know what his intentions were. He had said something to her like, oh, we should hang out and hook up, right? He said that he used that word, but he said that, and this is, just what he told me. He said that he used that phrase in the sense of let's meet up, right? But this girl and her mother understood it to be like hook up, like, I don't know, like something romantic. He claimed that, he was saying it in like, let's hook up, let's hang out, that kind of thing. Whatever, whatever his intention was, is whatever. I mean, they took it the wrong way and called the pastor, told him, that they thought it was inappropriate, that, what kind of relationship was he trying to initiate with their daughter. And, the fact that she rarely comes is because of this, because of people like him and this whole thing. So it became a thing. They relieved him of his duties with the youth for obvious reasons. And he decided then and there that we were moving back to New York. In that moment, I was so relieved. I was ecstatic, you know, as you can tell from this entry. I was so happy. I did not care whether or not these accusations were true. I did not care whether or not he was lying. I kind of just brushed it off like, you know what? He could be lying. He could be telling the truth. I don't care. I'm going home. That was it. I was completely selfish in this moment and just wanted to go home. I was like, I'm out. I'm packing my bags right this second. I can't stand another second in this place. He put in for a transfer with his job, and we moved back to New York. However, moving back to New York was not without its challenges. Obviously, because of the abrupt, move, we didn't really have anywhere to stay permanently. What ended up happening was that he was staying with his mom, and I moved in with my two girls to my parents' house while we looked for an apartment. Yeah, we just kind of did that for, I want to say, like a month. But during that time, I was really frustrated, for obvious reasons, because, that was no way to live. We were technically separated, and I didn't really hear from him much. It was weird. It was a weird time. It came to a point where I got really frustrated, and I told my mom my frustrations. I was like, he's not really looking for an apartment. I don't hear from him as far as like any updates about getting our own place. So my mom's idea was, all right, well, then you need to move in with him. And of course, I was like, well, that's going to be hard, because what he was doing was he was living in basically just a room in his mom's basement. It was small. There wasn't a lot of room. It was like you walk in and there was just like a little entryway. And then it was just this one room with, I don't even think there was a kitchen in there. I think it was just a room with a bathroom. And he'd eat at his mom's upstairs. So my mom was like, yeah, just go. I'm like, the three of us? And she's like, yeah, the three of you. Make him uncomfortable. Move you and your girls in with him. That's the only way to force him to find a place. And I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? That might work. So we did it. Of course, he protested. He's like, oh, it's going to be crowded. And I'm like, okay, well then, yeah, it's going to be crowded. So find an apartment. You're the one with the money. You're the one that claimed that, you would take care of us. So now do it. Right. And it worked. He found a place. He found an apartment, but it was kind of like a fixer-upper kind of thing. It was in a good area. The schools were good, but the apartment itself was, not the best. He wanted to change the carpet. He wanted to renovate the bathroom, because the bathroom was a mess. I think when he looked at it, even the toilet lid was broken. I don't know why. He and I think a couple of his cousins renovated the apartment. That took about 2 to 3 months. So essentially, we were living for a month separately. That took another 2 to 3 months for the renovations to be complete. So it took 4 months for us to actually move into our own place together. But once that happened, things settled down. The bickering back and forth had stopped pretty much. Yeah, so I guess it was 4 months, right? In between these two entries. I guess, is that what I was trying to get to? Yeah, so that's what I was trying to get at. Obviously I didn't have a computer, so it took 4 months between my last entry that I just read until this next entry. Long story, too late. Okay, so now you're all caught up, and we're back to my journal. Am I long-winded? I think I'm long-winded. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so after that all happened, this is my next entry. It's funny how, right when you think you've got it made, life kicks you in the face. All that boasting about how life was looking up, and now I wish I was back in Connecticut. Back when my life had routine, as much as I hated it. Back when no matter how long he was gone, I knew exactly where he was. Since we've been back, it's gotten really scary. It's almost like we've gone back to that horrible time in 97, when everything that could go wrong in a relationship did. It was the best time of my life when it came to my relationship with my friends, and that's the way I like to remember it. Because we got so close, and I really miss the way we all looked out for each other. But it was such a dark time for us, and I just can't help but remember both at the same time. And now all I see are the same behavioral patterns. The same way he used to hang out and not tell me where he was going. The same way he used to cling to his mother, and the whole time she knew about it and never warned me. Because, of course, she'd rather I not be in her life because I didn't kiss her ass and yes her all the time, like everybody else does. The only thing is, this time I'm fighting back. Because as much as I hate to admit it, I really do love him. And I know we can have a great future. But I know we can only do it if we stay together. Sometimes I get blinded, though, and I use counterproductive ways to get him to realize how self centered he was and is. But sometimes I feel as if the only way to get him to understand the way I felt when he did all those things to me is to do it right back at him. Unfortunately, he's not very smart, and he doesn't understand reason or logic in the least. And being that he's not considerate at all, there's just no way to explain to him how I feel or felt with this. Maybe one day he'll realize what a jerk he's been. Meanwhile, I'm making myself sick wondering what he's doing, or should I say whom. He mentioned he wanted to have these people over for dinner in our new place, specifically these girls he's friends with. And all I can think of is the time he had a certain someone call the house and had the nerve to give my daughter a pair of earrings for her birthday. I tell you, it's like deja vu, and it doesn't end there. There was a time when he was even taking out our child's car seat and going for joyrides. So you tell me, what would you think in a situation like that? And as much as he promises and assures me that it's only about me, the way he treats me and behaves tells me otherwise. And then, of course, there's a part of me that actually wants to believe him and really tries, but the doubt is so overwhelming that I can't stand it and it wins. And so I can't trust him. There are too many suspicions, too many coincidences. It can't be all one big misunderstanding. Unless, of course, it is all in my imagination and I'm blowing things way out of proportion. But then, isn't that what he did to me? I know revenge isn't good either, but it's all he understands. And if that's what it takes to get through to him, so be it. Okay, so it's the next day because my battery died and it got really dark. So it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I thought it would be perfect time to read you an entry that I wrote much later than the journal I've been reading to you from. This entry that I'm going to read to you from right now is different. I wrote this in 2020, and I'm just realizing now that it's 20 years later because it's talking about an incident that I had never written about until 20 years later. I'd only really spoken to a handful of people about it, my therapist being one of them, of course. So the entry is in a actual written journal. Again, I wrote this in 2020, and I actually have a date here. It's October 1st, 2020. As you all know, we were still at the height of the pandemic. So obviously, with everyone working from home and having a lot of time on our hands, I guess I had a lot to think about. Yeah, let me just read this. I wanted to start this month in a new notebook. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I think it's made me a little sad. Every year, I tend to feel more solemn in October, but for some reason, this year is different. I'm thinking about all I endured more often, not just with my ex, with all of them. Maybe it's because I was so intent on going back to therapy and talking about that whole portion of my life. Sadly, my clinic didn't want to take on any new cases. I'm guessing because of COVID. I guess I could try to find somewhere else to go. But I also feel like maybe this is the month I need to start writing my memoirs. I talked about doing it before, but maybe this is a sign. It's time to get back into doing the work. So this is day one of me doing that. Where to start? Well, I guess we can start at the beginning. Troubles with me and my ex started when he first cheated on me. I thought she worked with him. Found out later that she was a high school student. Apparently, he went there with his cousin and met her somehow. I didn't get the full details because at the time it hurt me too much to even ask. Because to me, this wasn't some innocent happening. He went out of his way to seek this person out. He would go to her school and pick her up and kick it to her, as he put it. He was the pursuer. Not only that, but she was a minor. He was stupid about it too. So obvious. He would come home and say his friend from work had given our daughter a birthday present. I didn't believe him, and the next day, when he went to work, I threw them away. I knew at that moment that he was cheating. I felt it in my gut. That was the one time he actually owned up to it and confessed. Because when we got married, we promised each other that if we ever wanted to be with someone else, we wouldn't cheat and just tell each other that we met someone else. So he told me, but only after it had already happened. He said he had gone to her place and they were going to be intimate. Actually, that they did, or started to, as he put it, but that his mom was calling him and he stopped. He said he took that as a sign that he wasn't doing the right thing, and his mom was calling him to stop him before it went further. Regardless of what he said or thought, he cheated, and I told him that. And he said he would stay home for a week to prove he was done with her and wanted to be with me. So he took the week off. We repaired what we could of our relationship, and he dedicated himself to me and our daughter. The day he was supposed to go back to work, I felt horrible and tried to get him to stay. When he asked me why I was acting like that, I said I didn't want him to go back to work because she was going to be there. He was confused, and that's when he told me he didn't work with her and that she went to his cousin's high school. I was destroyed all over again. We had a short argument, which ended with him leaving for work. I brooded at home. And when he got back, he said maybe we needed time apart to figure things out. So I went to my mom's for a week. At the time, I didn't want to go because I thought he would seek her out again while I was gone, which is probably exactly what he did. But either way, I went. I didn't tell my parents why exactly, just that we needed space. And they didn't ask questions, but I was sad the whole time. After the week was over, he picked me up and we had a chat. He asked if I still wanted to make things work, if I wanted to be with him. He promised he would never do it again, and I believed him, so I stayed. After that, our relationship deteriorated slowly. I don't think it was ever truly mended. I didn't trust him. Don't think I ever did after that. One of the toughest memories I have is the day he left me bruised and battered. I think that was the first time I tried to seriously leave him. It was 2000. I only know this because I do remember our youngest was 2 years old. He and I had been arguing for days, maybe even weeks. Tensions were high. I think this was around the time he was cheating on me with another one, a childhood friend of his. I never did get full confirmation, but she was calling his phone a lot, and I even intercepted a voice message she left on his phone telling him she couldn't wait to see him for lunch. Anyway, I forget what day it was, or even the month. I think it was spring or summer, because I remember it was warm out. I was done with fighting, and I just wanted to be left alone. So I went to take a nap and tried to ignore him, but he wouldn't let it be. I don't even know specifically what we were arguing about. All I know is he did not like being ignored at that moment. I was laying in bed on top of the covers. I remember telling him I had a headache and to please leave me alone. That's when he got in my face. Like literally was screaming in my face, and then he put his hand against my temple, trying to threaten me. Again, I just wanted to be left alone, so I pushed his hand away and said, "Stop, don't." Whatever it was, didn't matter. He took my brushing his hand away as me raising my hand to him, which I seriously wasn't. I just wanted to be left alone, like I said. I wanted to stop arguing. I wanted to take a nap. I wanted to be done with it. But he thought I was raising my hand to him, and that's all he cared about. He screamed, "How dare you raise your hand at me?" And before I could say I wasn't, he grabbed me, picked me up, and threw me on the ground. I don't remember much of what happened at that moment. I know he must have hit me because my ear turned black and blue the next day. In fact, my whole right side of my body was bruised. He had his knees on my ribs and thigh. That I do know. And that's how I got those bruises. I had bruises on both my arms. I think that's from when he picked me up and threw me. And of course, there were the bruises around my neck. That I do remember. I couldn't breathe. I remember thinking, I remember thinking, oh God, is this the way I die? I always, I always had a feeling I wouldn't listen. I always had a feeling I wouldn't live past 21. And here I was, being choked to death before my 22nd birthday. I couldn't breathe, and the room was going black. I was dying for all I knew. Right there on that beige carpet in my bedroom. I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't see. And I thought, oh God, who's going to take care of my kids? I was almost gone. I could feel my last breath being suppressed. I slipped further and further into darkness. But then my sweet little angels came to my rescue. I don't know what possessed them, but they both came in screaming and started hitting their father, punching him as hard as their little hands could. "Don't hurt my mommy." My oldest was the first to scold her father. "No, no, no, no." My youngest could barely talk, but she knew what she was witnessing was wrong, and her father needed to stop. They saved me. He let go, and I gasped and coughed, trying to get the air back in my lungs. When I finally was able to breathe again, my babies were hugging me, crying, and he had fled. I think I heard the door slam and the car take off, but I wasn't sure. So I looked out the window, and the car was gone. I checked the house, no sign of him anywhere. So I hugged my babies. I hugged them so tight, and I thanked them. They saved my life that day. My own two little guardian angels. I will never forget the day my babies saved my life. Had to do this one twice. I don't know what else to say. So after the events of that night, for some reason I didn't call the police. I did call a friend of ours who was a police officer, but I didn't call 911. Stupidly, I knew that if I did call 911, that he would never be able to fulfill his dream of being a cop. In hindsight, I know I should have called 911, but I didn't. And yeah, I regret that. But, you know, what happened happened. Unfortunately, the wife of the couple that I called, she was apparently busy that night. She wanted to go out or whatever. The husband was working. But she did pick me up and take me to our place. As soon as she dropped me off, of course, she went out. She had plans. The next morning, though, she had apparently called him, told him to come over to talk. She confronted him, of course. She yelled at him, screamed at him, showed him my bruises. She even punched him and dared him to punch her back. She said, "Oh, like, you're a brave man to hit her. How about you hit me?" But of course he didn't. And he was ashamed of what he did. I didn't think I was going back the following night, but this so-called friend couldn't keep me there. I guess I was imposing, so she told me to grab my things and go home. Obviously, she threatened him again and told him if he ever does that to me again, that she would take a chair to his head. But yeah, I went back. I didn't feel like I had any other choice. She didn't want me there. She couldn't help me. And that was that. After that day, the house was pretty quiet. I kind of kept to myself, and he just went to work, came home. We both kind of pretended like it didn't happen. But I guess a part of me knew that if I did want to leave him for good, that I would need money, I would need a job. So I started looking for work. I got an interview with a organizer, I guess. She was a designer. I went to high school for fashion design. I studied fashion design. She was an organizer. She was doing a collaborative fashion show for up and coming fashion designers. So I applied. She liked my work and asked me to join the show. There was, I think, a $200 deposit to join the show because obviously you have to pay for expenses, but it was collaborative. So I think there were about 15 designers. So we all pitched in and worked on this show. So I did that for most of the year. I think our first meeting as a group was in November of that year. So I had already turned 22. And because I also had some experience with doing logos, she asked me to create a logo for her. However, one of the models that was on my team, she was the younger sister of a like supermodel, I guess. So she was pretty well known. So this model confided in me and told me that she wanted to do her own fashion show and she had some connections. So I was really excited. I felt like this is it. This is going to be my big break, right? However, because this model was scouting for her own project within our collaborative, the head organizer wasn't happy with that. So she let her go. And because of that, I kind of, I was upset about it because she let go one of my models. I didn't want another model. I didn't have time to find another model. And it just became this whole thing. Another aspect of that was also that I had to create these designs, right? So I was working on that pretty much all day, every day of the week. And that really bothered him. At first, he was kind of encouraging, he was trying to be supportive, like, oh, that's so cool, But little by little, I think he got a bit envious. Here I was gaining some success. And yeah, he kind of tried to sabotage me. That model that I was working with, she got me into a show that was happening at the China Club. I don't know. If you're Gen X, you know what that place was, but I don't believe it's around anymore. But it was a big deal. China Club was like a really big deal. So I was really excited about that. The news were there, covering the event. I was excited, I was happy. And he supported me all the way. He helped get me there, stood by me, everything. And there was even a woman who saw my designs and she really liked them. She gave me her card and I was supposed to meet her after the event. We set up a time to meet. But of course, that meeting never happened because, like I said, he was jealous. His excuse was that he couldn't take me. I didn't understand why he couldn't take me, but he said he couldn't. He tried to say that who was going to watch the kids or something like that. So, I asked him, I'm like, well, I can ask my mom or we can ask your mom. He's like, oh, it's too late. It's too late to ask them. And mind you, we've asked our family to take care of our kids last minute and they've always said yes. So that was just an excuse. So my solution, of course, was obvious. Okay, then you stay home, watch the kids, and I'll go. Wasn't having that. I didn't understand why I couldn't go by myself. He gave the excuse of, oh, it's too late, can't go to the city by yourself, it's too far. The meeting was at like 7:30 p.m., so I would have been fine getting there and coming back. It was just probably like a half-hour meeting or whatever, but he wasn't having it. He did not let me go, refused to ask either of our parents to watch the kids, refused to let me go on my own, and so I missed the meeting. I even remember, picking up the phone to call this model friend who had set up the meeting and, let her know that I wasn't going. And he refused to let me call her. He said, no, just don't go. I was like, no, I have to call her, I tried to pick up the phone and he's like, no, just don't call her. Just don't show up. She'll get the point. And he wouldn't let me call her. So obviously, she was pissed. I missed the meeting. The woman that was interested in my designs didn't want to talk with me again because obviously I, was a no show. So there I was, broke off my relationship with the organizer that I was working with, the model that promised me that she could set me up with other contacts, to not worry. He forced me to miss that meeting, and now no one would talk to me. So, yeah, he pretty much sabotaged that opportunity for me, and I never worked in fashion design again. Yeah. So 2000 ended up not being my year. It really sucked. That was the year 2000 in a nutshell for me. So I think I'll end this here. So how do I wrap this up? I'm not sure I'm going to do that whole, what did I learn from this, because I feel like y'all know. I think that's it for this video. In honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I feel obliged to say you're not alone. If the narcissist in your life has isolated you and destroyed every opportunity they possibly could having any sort of success in life, the best advice I could give is to get out. I know how hard that is. I can tell you right now that even though this incident happened in 2000, I was not able to fully leave him until 4 years later. So, yeah, I get it. It's not easy. It's extremely hard, especially when you feel like you're alone, especially when he's triangulated your entire family against you, when he's or she has weaponized your children. It's not easy, but you're not alone. I can tell you now that I don't think I would have been able to leave him in the end if it weren't for my friends. So even if you have just one person that you can trust, that you can lean on, please do it. I don't know why I didn't at the time, but there are resources out there. I didn't even think to research what resources were out there because that's part of his plan, right? They break you down to the point where you can't think straight. And I never once thought of Googling or researching how to break free. Not once. And, by this time, the internet was a thing. Computers were a thing. And I just never thought to do that. So please do some research. Find a local shelter. Find, call I think it's the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I actually have it right here. 1-800-799-SAFE. I'll put it at the end of this video. You can call them. You can text them. You can do a live chat. They're a big resource. Depending on your state, you can call 988. I guess just know that your story matters. That's why I started this. That's why I'm doing this. I know that my story matters now. I didn't for years. Like I said, in my intro, I have to get it out. As hard as it was going to be for me, I knew that I had to do this. Yeah, and if for whatever reason you don't have access to a computer or don't have access to a phone or don't have privacy to use it, find that one person you trust and ask them to do you the favor. Ask for help. I never asked for help, and I wish I had. The only way I got out was because my best friend at the time offered me help. I told her that I needed to get out, and I told her that I was saving up to leave him. But she was the one that told me that domestic violence shelters existed. I didn't know. I honestly didn't know. Even if you're not in a abusive relationship or toxic relationship, I think many of us probably know someone who is. I ask those people to reach out and help someone who, even if you suspect they might be in an abusive relationship, just offer the help. Because if you don't, you never know. You never know what could happen. But yeah, I guess that's it from this video. I hope it was helpful in some way. I hope it reaches the right people. Whoever needs to hear this, don't be afraid to reach out, even to a stranger. And I know you don't know me, but I just want you to know that I'm here for you. You can email me. My email is on my bio, on my channel, and I would be willing to help anyone who needs it, because I know, because I've been there. So that's it. That's the video. See you next time.